The bell above the bakery door chimed softly as Emily Carter stepped inside, clutching her worn-out wallet against her chest. She had rehearsed this moment all morning, whispering to herself while driving her old Toyota Camry through Brooklyn traffic. Today was supposed to be simple. She would pick up the small chocolate cake Noah had been dreaming about, pay for it quietly, and walk home with a little dignity for once. But life rarely gave her anything simple. The bell above the bakery door chimed softly as Emily Carter stepped inside, clutching her worn-out wallet against her chest. She had rehearsed this moment all morning, whispering to herself while driving her old Toyota Camry through Brooklyn traffic. Today was supposed to be simple. She would pick up the small chocolate cake Noah had been dreaming about, pay for it quietly, and walk home with a little dignity for once. But life rarely gave her anything simple. Those words had barely left her lips when a deep voice cut through the bakery. If you can't even afford a cake, maybe you should rethink having a kid. The room froze. Richard Hale, billionaire tech mogul, standing in his tailored coat and holding his Mont Blanc pen like a scepter, stared at her with a mixture of annoyance and superiority. People turned. Emily stopped breathing. She had no idea who he was, only that his words pierced deeper than he could ever understand. Richard wasn't done. Some people make irresponsible choices and expect the world to feel sorry for them. Emily's throat tightened. She saw her own reflection in the glass display. Tired eyes, uniform smelling of flour, apron slightly stained. A mother doing her best, now publicly shamed by a man whose watch alone probably cost more than she earned in a month. The cashier tried to help, but it was too late. Emily whispered, "Please, just cancel it," and backed away, holding in the tears burning behind her eyes. She wanted to disappear. She wanted Noah to never know this happened. But someone else in the bakery had been watching Richard closely, and their reaction would soon change everything. No one in the room could guess how fast their lives were about to collide. And in that silent moment, a truth about the billionaire's past was about to surface. Emily Carter walked home from the bakery that evening with the same tight feeling she had grown used to over the years. Shame, exhaustion, worry. They all blended into one heavy weight pressing on her chest. But long before a billionaire humiliated her in public, life had already been testing her in ways no one saw. People often said she looked younger than 28, yet there was something in her eyes that revealed all the battles she'd fought alone. She hadn't always lived this way. Before Noah was born, Emily believed in simple dreams marriage, a small home, a family that stayed together. She married her high school sweetheart, Jake, thinking love would be enough to survive adulthood. But the world had different plans. When Noah was 2, Jake walked out without warning. One cold January morning, Emily woke to an empty closet, a note on the counter, and the quiet sound of her baby breathing in the next room. Jake said he needed space, but what he really needed was freedom from responsibility. Emily was left with rent overdue, no degree, and a child who depended entirely on her. She worked whatever jobs she could find, waitress shifts at diners, cleaning offices at night, handing out flyers in the snow. Eventually, she landed a small position at the Brooklyn bakery, grateful for anything steady. Every dollar mattered. She learned to stretch groceries, sew Noah's clothes, and find joy in small moments like reading bedtime stories or watching him draw superheroes on scrap paper. On one lonely evening, while dropping off recycling, she found an old Amazon box filled with used books. One caught her eye, Atomic Habits. She took it home, wiping dirt off the cover, and read chapters during midnight breaks. It taught her to keep moving forward, even if only an inch at a time. She clung to that message whenever bills piled up or Noah asked, "Mom, why don't we ever buy new things like other kids?" Despite everything, Emily refused to let hardship harden her. She raised Noah with love, honesty, and quiet strength. She never complained, never asked for pity. But after the humiliation at the bakery, something inside her cracked. She didn't deserve to be treated like that, no one did. And someone unexpected had witnessed her pain far closer than she realized, someone whose involvement would soon shake her entire world. Because the person following her out of the bakery knew a secret about Richard Hale that Emily wasn't supposed to hear. High above Manhattan, on the 40th floor of Hale Robotics, Richard Hale stood alone in his glass-walled office, staring out at Fifth Avenue, as if the city below existed only to obey him. The skyline glittered against the late afternoon sun, reflecting off the polished surface of his desk, where his MacBook Pro, a stack of contracts, and his Mont Blanc pen sat in perfect alignment. Everything in Richard's world was controlled, calculated, and kept at a safe emotional distance. But the silence in the office felt heavier than usual. He had brushed off the moment in the bakery as nothing more than an inconvenience. A stranger's financial troubles weren't his concern. People struggled every day. It wasn't his responsibility to carry them. At least, that's what he told himself. Yet, for some reason, the look in that woman's eyes lingered in his mind. It wasn't anger. It was pain. The kind of pain he had spent decades avoiding. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. His daughter, Olivia, stepped in, arms crossed, dressed in sleek black with her hair tied back. At 24, she carried herself with the same confidence he had at 40, but her eyes held something he'd lost long ago: empathy. "I heard what happened," she said simply. Richard didn't turn. "People exaggerate." "Dad," she said sharply, "you shamed a mother buying her kid a cake." He finally faced her. "It wasn't my intention." She made a scene. "No," Olivia replied, jaw tight. "You did." "Her." The air thickened between them. Their relationship had been strained ever since her mother died, leaving behind a void neither of them knew how to fill. Richard buried himself in work, building Hale Robotics into a titan of the tech world. Olivia grew up surrounded by wealth, yet feeling emotionally abandoned. They spoke, but rarely connected. "Why do you care?" Richard asked, though he already knew why. Emily reminded Olivia of someone her mother, who had once worked as a waitress before marrying into wealth. A woman Richard adored yet constantly pushed to be better, never realizing he was chipping away at the very person he loved. Olivia stepped closer. "Because she didn't deserve what you said, and you know it." Richard's jaw tightened. He hated being wrong. He hated being confronted. But most of all, he hated the truth in Olivia's voice. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed with an urgent message, one that would unexpectedly pull him back into Emily's orbit far sooner than he wanted. And what he read on the screen made his heart stall for the first time in years. The next morning, the bakery buzzed with its usual rhythm: coffee brewing, trays clattering, the soft hum of customers chatting. But for Emily, everything felt different. She walked in with her apron folded neatly in her hands, hoping no one would mention what happened yesterday. She wasn't ready to relive it. But the moment she stepped behind the counter, Mark Rivera, the bakery manager, approached her with gentle eyes. He was in his mid-40s, calm, steady, the kind of person who noticed things others ignored. He handed her a warm cup of coffee, the way a friend might offer reassurance without saying the words. "I heard something happened yesterday," he said quietly. Emily stiffened. "It's fine. I just had a bad moment." Mark shook his head. "Emily, people are talking, and they're not talking kindly." Her breath caught. She knew this was coming, but hearing it out loud hurt in a way she wasn't prepared for. She looked around. A couple of regular customers whispered near the pastry case. Another group of women glanced at her, then quickly looked away, pretending to study the croissants. Mark lowered his voice. "Look, I know you're doing your best. You're a good mum. Anyone can see that." Emily wanted to smile, but her throat tightened. "I'm just trying to hold everything together." "And you are," he said softly. But as the morning rush picked up, things grew worse. A pair of college students entered, giggling as they scrolled through something on a phone. Emily didn't think much of it until one of them murmured, "Is that her? The one who couldn't afford the birthday cake?" Emily froze. The humiliation from yesterday surged back like a wave she couldn't outrun. Her hands trembled slightly as she boxed pastries for them, pretending not to hear. Then another customer chimed in. "I mean, what kind of mother can't buy a cake for her kid?" He didn't bother whispering. Mark stepped in quickly. "That's enough," he said sharply. "Grab your coffee and move along." The customers backed off, but the damage was already done. Emily felt stripped bare in front of strangers, exposed in a way she couldn't defend against. She whispered, "Maybe I should go home early." Mark hesitated, then nodded. "Take the rest of the day. You need a break." As Emily removed her apron, her heart pounded with a mixture of fear and exhaustion. But she didn't see the figure standing outside the bakery window, watching her quietly, because someone had returned. Someone whose guilt was about to create unexpected consequences. Emily stepped out of the bakery with her jacket pulled tight around her, hoping the cold Brooklyn air would steady her breath. She just wanted to walk home, curl up with Noah, and forget the world existed for a moment. But as she reached the corner, a sleek black Mercedes eased up to the curb. Her stomach dropped when the door opened, and Richard Hale stepped out. Not alone. His daughter, Olivia, followed, her expression unreadable. Emily froze. She didn't want another confrontation. She didn't want anything from this man. Richard cleared his throat awkwardly. "Miss Carter," he began, his voice unusually stiff. "I came to apologize. Yesterday may have been misunderstood." Misunderstood. The word cut deeper than the original insult. He made it sound like a minor inconvenience, not a wound she carried through the night like a weight on her chest. Emily kept her voice steady. "You humiliated me." Richard's jaw tensed, as if he wasn't used to being spoken to so directly. "I spoke out of frustration. I didn't mean for it to get blown out of proportion." "There was nothing blown out of proportion," Emily replied. "You looked at me like I was beneath you." Olivia stepped forward, clearly uncomfortable with her father's tone. "Emily, I'm sorry for what happened. Truly. I saw the video. People shouldn't talk about you like that." "Ty." Emily blinked. "There's a video?" Richard stiffened. Olivia shot him a look that said she hadn't meant to reveal that. "Someone recorded the whole thing," she continued gently. "It's been circulating online since last night. I thought Dad should know people are criticizing him pretty heavily." Richard's face darkened, not with remorse but with inconvenience. His reputation, that's why he was here. Not because she deserved kindness, not because she was a mother doing her best, because the internet had turned him into a villain overnight. Emily inhaled slowly. "So you came to fix your image?" Richard looked away, caught. "I came to apologize." "Then say it like you mean it," she said quietly. For a moment, the billionaire who commanded armies of employees looked lost, stripped of power, forced to face the consequences of his words. "I'm sorry," he said finally, voice low. It wasn't enough, not even close. Olivia seemed to know it too, watching Emily with a softness her father didn't possess. But before Emily could respond, a familiar voice called her name from down the street, someone who had also seen the viral video. And what they were about to tell her would shake her world even more. Emily hurried home faster than usual, the cold air biting at her cheeks as she clutched her jacket. She wanted to reach Noah before anyone else could. The thought of her little boy hearing about that video about her humiliation made her chest tighten. She prayed the world would spare him, just this once. But when she reached the small brick apartment building and climbed the stairs, she found Noah sitting on the floor outside their door, backpack beside him, knees pulled into his chest. His eyes were red. Her heart dropped. "Noah? Sweetheart, what's wrong?" He didn't look up at first. When he finally did, the sadness in his eyes hit her harder than anything Richard Hale had said. "Mom, is it true?" His voice was small, scared. "Kids at school. They said you couldn't buy my birthday cake." Emily froze. It felt like all the air had left her lungs. She knelt beside him. "Who told you that?" "Some boys in my class," he whispered. "They were laughing. They showed me a video." His lip trembled. "They said you're the mom who begged for a cake." Her stomach twisted with pain. "Noah, that's not what happened. I wasn't begging. But they said we're poor." Tears slipped down his cheeks. "They said I shouldn't even have a birthday." Emily pulled him into her arms instantly, holding him tightly as he sobbed against her shoulder. She stroked his hair, whispering, "You deserve every birthday, every cake, every good thing in this world." Her voice shook. "I'm sorry you had to hear it like that." He clung to her shirt. "Why did that man say those things about you? Did he think you're a bad mom?" Emily closed her eyes. She wanted to protect him from everything, but the world had already breached their small bubble of safety. "No, baby. He doesn't know us. He doesn't know how hard I try." Sometimes people say mean things because they don't understand. Noah shifted back slightly, wiping his eyes with his sleeve. I don't like him. Emily sighed. Me neither. Ugh. They sat in silence for a long moment, the hallway dim, the faint smell of old carpet surrounding them. Emily wished she could shield Noah from cruelty forever, but she couldn't not when their lives were being passed around online like entertainment. Then Noah whispered, "Mom, are people going to keep laughing at us?" Emily hugged him again. Hard. I won't let them. But even as she said it, footsteps echoed down the hallway, someone coming toward them with news she wasn't ready for, and what they brought would push Emily to the breaking point. Olivia hesitated at the end of the dim hallway, watching Emily hold Noah close. The sight unsettled her in a way she couldn't quite explain. She had grown up surrounded by wealth, polished floors, private tutors, and quiet chauffeurs. Yet she never forgot how her mother used to cry silently in the kitchen whenever Richard snapped at her. Something in Emily's trembling voice echoed those memories. "Emily," Olivia said softly. Emily looked up, startled. Noah wiped his face quickly, as though embarrassed to be crying in front of a stranger. "I'm not here to upset you," Olivia continued. "I wanted to check on you both." Emily exhaled shakily. "Why?" Olivia stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Because what happened wasn't fair, and because my father's apology wasn't enough." Emily looked away. "Your father just wanted the video gone." Olivia nodded, ashamed. "I know. He reacts like that when he's scared of looking weak." Emily's eyebrows lifted slightly. "A billionaire scared of weakness?" "More than you'd think," Olivia replied. "My mum was a waitress before she met him. He carries shame he never talks about." Emily felt a pang of understanding, but it didn't erase the hurt. Olivia glanced at Noah, offering a warm smile. "Hi, Noah. I'm Olivia." He shyly nodded. "Listen," Olivia said, turning back to Emily. "Would you let me help? Not money, not charity, just a chance to make things right." Emily swallowed hard. "I don't know if things can be made right." "Maybe not," Olivia admitted, "but I can try, and I think you deserve someone on your side." Emily studied her carefully, sensing sincerity rather than pity. "What exactly are you offering?" Olivia hesitated. "A conversation. Somewhere calmer, somewhere private." Emily almost refused until Noah tugged her sleeve, whispering, "Maybe she wants to help, Mom." Emily sighed. "All right, let's talk." Olivia nodded, relieved. But just as they prepared to head downstairs, the stairwell door swung open, and a neighbor rushed toward them, phone in hand, panic all over her face. "Emily," she cried, "you need to see this. Right now." Emily's heart lurched. Olivia stiffened. Noah clutched her hand. The neighbor turned the screen toward them, revealing something none of them expected. And the moment Emily saw it, she felt her entire world shift in an instant, as a truth she never imagined was about to pull her into a storm far bigger than the video itself. Emily's breath caught as she stared at the neighbor's phone. The video wasn't just the bakery moment anymore. Someone had dug deeper, way deeper. A new clip was circulating online, stitched onto hers, showing a younger woman in an old restaurant uniform. The caption read, "Billionaire Richard Hale once humiliated his wife the same way." Emily's heart raced. Olivia's face drained of color. "My mom," she whispered. Emily looked at her, stunned. "That's your mother?" Olivia nodded slowly, forcing herself to meet Emily's eyes. "Someone leaked an old recording. It was before I was born. My mom was working at a diner, and my dad, he said something awful to her in front of her co-workers. She forgave him later, or tried to." Emily felt her anger waver, replaced by an unexpected mix of shock and empathy. Noah tugged Emily's sleeve. "Mum, the internet is being mean to her too." Olivia wiped a tear quickly. "She passed away when I was 16. She struggled with depression for years. Dad never talked about it. He buried everything, including the guilt." Emily listened silently, letting the weight of those words settle. She hadn't known anyone else carried pain from Richard's past, and she didn't expect it to echo her own life so sharply. Olivia took a shaky breath. That's why I wanted to help you. When I saw what he said to you, it felt like watching the same wound reopen after decades. Emily looked down at Noah, who leaned against her side, still shaken. I didn't realize, she said quietly. I didn't know your family had been through that. Most people don't, Olivia whispered. Dad built an empire, so no one could ever look down on him again. But in the process, he started looking down on everyone else. The hallway felt colder now, filled with unspoken stories. Emily crossed her arms. So, what happens next? That video people are going to tear into him. Olivia shook her head. They already are. Investors, news outlets, the PR team is panicking. But maybe this is what he needs. Maybe he finally has to face the man he became. Emily didn't respond. She wasn't ready to forgive, not yet. But she understood more now than she had an hour ago. Olivia stepped closer. Emily, will you let me help fix this? Not to protect him, to protect you. People are using your name to hurt him, but you don't deserve to get dragged through this. Emily hesitated. Then her phone buzzed with a notification that made her stomach twist, because the bakery had just called, and the message waiting for her could change everything she depended on. Emily's hands trembled as she opened the voicemail from the bakery. Mark's voice came through, low and careful, the way someone speaks when delivering bad news they wish they could stop. Emily, call me back when you can. The owner saw the videos. He's worried about attention, backlash, everything. Just call me, okay? Her stomach dropped. She didn't need him to say it. She could hear the fear in his voice. The bakery didn't want the drama. They didn't want to be associated with a viral scandal. And people like her, regular people, poor people, were always the easiest to cut loose. Noah sensed her panic. Mom, what's happening? Emily forced a small smile she didn't feel. It's all right, sweetheart. I'll handle it. But her voice cracked on the last word. Olivia stepped closer. Let me help. Please. Emily shook her head. Your father caused this mess. I don't want anything from him. It's not for him, Olivia insisted. It's for you and Noah. Emily exhaled shakily. What can you even do? Olivia hesitated before answering. There's a charity gala this weekend, one of the biggest in Manhattan. My father's company sponsors it every year. I want you and Noah to come. Emily blinked. Why would we go to a place like that? Because it's full of the same people who are spreading that video, Olivia said gently. If they saw you, really saw you, it would change everything. You're being painted as some unstable, irresponsible mum. It's not fair. Emily swallowed hard. I'm not a prop for your father's reputation. You're not, Olivia said earnestly. But you deserve a chance to speak for yourself, to show people the truth. And maybe my father needs to see you again too. He needs to face what he's done. Emily didn't know what to say. The idea of walking into a Manhattan gala felt unreal, impossible. She didn't own the right clothes. She didn't know how to act around wealthy donors. She was a bakery worker from Brooklyn who spent her nights clipping grocery coupons. But then she looked at Noah, her sweet, hurting boy, and something shifted. She couldn't let the world define them by a 30-second video. Olivia seemed to sense her hesitation softening. Just think about it. I'll handle everything else. Emily slowly nodded. All right, I'll think about it. Olivia smiled in relief. But before anyone could say more, Emily's phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Mark. And the words on the screen made her knees weaken, because the decision she feared most had just become real. Emily stared at the message from Mark, as if the screen had gone blurry. Emily, I'm sorry. The owner wants to suspend you until things calm down. Suspend, a polite word for get out. Her job, her only steady income, was gone because of a man who would never miss the money he spent on a single tie. Her throat tightened. She didn't want Noah to see her panic, but he was already watching her with wide, worried eyes. Mom, are we in trouble? She forced calm into her voice. We'll be okay, sweetheart. I promise. Even if she didn't know how, Olivia stepped forward. Emily, I know this is the worst possible timing, but the gala, it might actually help you now. People need to see you for who you really are. Emily rubbed her forehead. I don't belong in a place like that. I don't even own shoes that match. I'll take care of that, Olivia said softly. You won't owe me anything. Let me help, because I wish someone had helped my mom when she needed it." Something in those words made Emily pause. They weren't coated in pity or superiority. They came from a wound that had never quite healed. Later that evening, Emily sat at the small kitchen table, while Noah did homework across from her. Their apartment was quiet, the hum of the old refrigerator filling the silence. Emily stared at the crumpled paper Olivia had given her, the gala invitation printed on glossy cardstock, embossed with silver lettering. Ritz-Carlton, Manhattan, a world she had never even stepped near. She whispered to herself, "What am I doing?" She imagined a room full of wealthy donors staring at her, whispering behind their champagne glasses. She imagined embarrassing herself, or worse, embarrassing Noah. But then she thought of him crying in the hallway, asking if people would keep laughing at them. No, she wouldn't let that be his story. When Mark knocked on her door later that night, he carried a small garment bag and an apologetic smile. Some of the guys at the bakery pitched in. "It's nothing fancy, but we wanted you to have something nice to wear for the gala." Emily's breath caught. Inside the bag was a simple, soft blue dress, elegant but modest. "Mark, I can't accept this." "You can," he insisted gently. "And you should." Emily touched the fabric, overwhelmed. But before she could thank him, Noah peeked around the corner, eyes shining. "Mom, do you think people will listen to you there?" Emily ran her hand through his hair. "I don't know," she whispered, "but I'm going to try." And neither of them knew that one guest at that gala would change the course of their lives forever. The night of the gala arrived colder than expected, the kind of Manhattan winter evening where the city lights shimmered against the frost. Emily stepped out of the cab with Noah beside her, her breath catching when she looked up at the towering entrance of the Ritz-Carlton. Gold lights framed the doorway, and valets in crisp uniforms hurried to open car doors for guests stepping out in glittering gowns and tailored tuxedos. She felt like she had stepped into another universe. Her soft blue dress fluttered slightly in the wind. Noah clutched her hand tightly, wearing the button-up shirt Mark had ironed for him, along with the old Citizen watch he'd borrowed. Emily didn't have jewelry, expensive perfume, or a designer clutch, just a small thrift store purse and a hope that she wouldn't make a fool of herself. Olivia suddenly appeared at the entrance, waving them over with a relieved smile. She wore an elegant black gown, but there was nothing snobbish about her. She looked genuinely happy they'd come. "You look beautiful," Olivia said warmly. Emily shook her head. "I feel like I'm trespassing." "You're not," Olivia insisted. "You deserve to be here." Inside, the ballroom was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, reflecting off polished marble floors. A live orchestra played soft classical music, and waiters in white gloves carried trays of champagne. Guests laughed and mingled under the warm glow of towering floral arrangements. Emily had only seen places like this in movies. Being here felt unreal. She tried not to stare, but everything overwhelmed her. The shine, the wealth, the elegance she'd never known. She felt painfully aware of every flaw. Her inexpensive shoes, her simple dress, her hands rough from baking dough every morning. Noah squeezed her hand. "Mom, it's really pretty." "It is," she whispered. "Just stay close to me, okay?" As they moved through the crowd, Emily caught a few curious glances. A couple whispered, eyebrows raised. Someone murmured, "Is that the woman from the video?" The words stung, but she lifted her chin, reminding herself why she was here to stand tall for Noah. Olivia guided them toward the front of the room. "The program starts soon. Dad is supposed to speak." Emily's stomach tightened. She wasn't ready to face Richard Hale again, not in a place like this. But before she could say anything, a hush fell over the crowd as the lights dimmed slightly. Richard had arrived, and the moment he stepped onto the stage, the room seemed to hold its breath, because he had clearly noticed Emily standing there. Emily felt her pulse spike as Richard took the stage. He looked perfectly at home. Up their polished suit, steady posture, the Manhattan skyline visible through the ballroom's massive windows behind him. People applauded as though nothing in his life had ever been messy or cruel. Meanwhile, Emily stood in the crowd, feeling like she had a spotlight burning directly onto her. Richard began speaking about philanthropy, community partnerships, corporate responsibility, words that sounded impressive but meant nothing to a woman who had been suspended from her job because of him. Emily tried to focus on breathing. Noah squeezed her hand gently. Then it happened. A sharply dressed woman standing near the front suddenly turned, her eyes widening as she recognized Emily. "Oh my God," the woman whispered, loud enough to draw attention. "Isn't that the waitress from the video?" Several heads swiveled. Murmurs rippled. A man in a tuxedo snickered. "You're kidding. She's here? At this event?" Another woman leaned closer, examining Emily like she was something on a museum wall. "I heard she staged the entire scene to get sympathy online." Emily felt heat crawl up her neck. "That's not true," she managed to say. But the comments kept coming. "So irresponsible. How can you not afford a cake? It's $10. She probably came hoping for a payout. People like her shouldn't be invited to events like this. Someone actually stepped back, as if being near her was distasteful. Noah's face crumpled. "Mom, they're doing it again." Emily swallowed hard, forcing herself not to cry. "Don't listen to them, sweetheart." But it was too late. His small hand trembled in hers. Then one of Richard's business partners, an older man with silver hair and a Rolex that flashed under the chandelier, laughed loudly and said, "Well, Richard certainly knows how to pick entertainment for the evening. First a viral meltdown, now a charity appearance. What's next? A GoFundMe announcement." The crowd chuckled. Emily felt the humiliation crash over her in a single brutal wave. She wasn't just out of place. She was being dissected, mocked, pulled apart by people who didn't even know her name. Olivia stepped forward, her jaw clenched. "Enough," she hissed at the group. But the whispers didn't stop. Up on the stage, Richard paused, mid-sentence. He had heard it too. His eyes lifted, scanning the crowd until they met Emily's. And for the first time that night, something in his expression cracked. Because what happened next would tear apart the perfect facade of the room and force Richard to face the monster he had become. The ballroom noise seemed to swell all at once. Whispers, laughter, the soft clinking of champagne glasses. Emily felt trapped in the center of it, every cruel comment slicing deeper. She could handle the humiliation. She'd survived worse. But seeing Noah's face crumble in real time, seeing his small shoulders shake, shattered something inside her that no billionaire's insult ever could. "Mom, I want to go home," he whispered, voice breaking. Emily knelt beside him, cupping his cheeks. "Sweetheart, look at me." But Noah couldn't. Tears streamed down his face, faster than she could wipe them away. His breathing turned uneven, panicked. He wasn't just embarrassed. He was overwhelmed, scared, hurt in a way a 7-year-old should never be. People stared. Some looked annoyed, others uncomfortable, but none stepped in to help. "Mom." "They're laughing again," Noah cried. "Why won't they stop? Why do they hate us?" The words stabbed through her like a knife. Emily hugged him tightly, shielding him with her body. "They don't hate us. They just don't understand. I'm here. I've got you." But his sobs grew louder. Olivia rushed over and knelt beside them. "Noah, hey, look at me." Her voice softened, calm and steady. "It's okay. None of this is your fault." The boy clung to Emily, trembling against her dress. "I want to leave," he whispered again. "Please." Emily nodded, heart breaking. "Okay, baby. We're leaving right now." She stood, guiding him toward the exit. But before they could take 2 steps, one of the businessmen muttered, "Unbelievable," making a scene for attention. Again. Emily froze. Her chest burned. Noah's hand tightened painfully around hers. Olivia spun around, fury blazing in her eyes. "Are you serious? He's a child." The man shrugged. Maybe he wouldn't be crying if his mother had some dignity. That was it. Noah covered his ears, shaking his head as tears fell onto the marble floor. Emily scooped him up, holding him close as he buried his face in her neck. She could feel his little heart pounding against her shoulder, fast and frightened. "Don't listen to them," she whispered, her own voice cracking. Up on stage, Richard Hale went silent, completely silent. He saw Noah sobbing uncontrollably, Emily trying to shield him, Olivia stepping in front of them like a guard. Something changed in his face. Something sharp, unsettled, almost painful. Then Noah turned his tear-stained face toward the stage for just a second, and the look he gave Richard wasn't anger. It was disappointment. And that single look would ignite a reaction from Richard that no one in the ballroom could have predicted. For a moment, the entire ballroom hung in a stunned silence. Richard stood frozen on stage, staring at Noah, this trembling little boy who looked at him as though he were something awful, something cruel. The orchestra faltered. The whispers died. Even the crystal chandeliers seemed to hum with tension. Emily turned away, ready to carry Noah out the door and never look back. But Olivia wasn't about to let the room swallow them whole. She stepped forward, heels clicking sharply against the marble, her black gown sweeping behind her like a shadow. "Enough," she said, loudly and clearly, her voice cutting through the stillness like a blade. Guests turned, startled. Olivia walked straight into the center of the ballroom. "All of you," she continued, her voice rising, "should be ashamed." A ripple of shock moved through the crowd. No one expected a billionaire's daughter to confront them, especially not like this. "That little boy," she pointed to Noah, "is crying because grown adults, wealthy, educated people mocked his mother. What kind of people laugh at a child's pain?" A woman scoffed. "Olivia, don't make a scene." "Oh, I'm just getting started," she shot back. Emily froze near the doorway, Noah clinging to her shoulder, watching Olivia with wide eyes. Olivia turned slowly, letting her gaze sweep across the guests. "You know what's funny?" she said. "You all pretend to be charitable, compassionate, generous, but the second a struggling mother walks into the room, you treat her like she's dirt beneath your shoes. Remorse spread uncomfortable, defensive." Then Olivia turned toward the stage. "Dad," she called. Richard stiffened. "You know exactly what this feels like," she said, her voice cracking just slightly. "Because you did the same thing to Mom years ago. And tonight, in front of hundreds of people, you did it again, this time to a woman who didn't deserve any of it." Gasps filled the room. Emily's breath caught. Noah lifted his head. Richard's face pallid. Olivia stepped closer to the stage. "Your past finally caught up with you, Dad, and you can't hide behind your money, your speeches, or your boardroom anymore." The room was silent. Emily felt her knees weaken. Olivia had just detonated the truth in front of Manhattan's elite, and there was no going back. Richard's jaw clenched. A crack of emotion flickered across his face. Then he stepped down from the stage, slowly, deliberately, heading straight towards her. And the moment he reached Emily, the entire ballroom braced for what he would say next. Richard reached the floor of the ballroom slowly, each step echoing louder than the last. People parted for him, not out of respect this time, but out of fear of being too close to the unfolding disaster. Emily held Noah tightly, her heartbeat racing in her ears. She didn't know what he intended to say. She only knew she didn't have the strength for another blow. Richard stopped a few feet away. For once, he looked unsure, human. "Emily," he began, but Olivia cut in sharply. "No," she said. "Not to her, to everyone." Gasps murmured through the crowd. Olivia wasn't giving him room to retreat back into professionalism or rehearsed speeches. Richard's eyes flicked from his daughter to the sea of wealthy faces staring at him. Investors, politicians, media contacts, people he'd built his empire with, people who expected perfection. He swallowed. "My daughter is right," he said, voice lower than usual. "All of you saw a woman, a mother who was struggling, and instead of compassion, you chose cruelty." Olivia turned slowly, letting her gaze sweep across the guests. "You know what's funny?" she said. "You all pretend to be charitable, compassionate, generous, but the second a struggling mother walks into the room, you treat her like she's dirt beneath your shoes. Remorse spread uncomfortable, defensive." Then Olivia turned toward the stage. "Dad," she called. Richard stiffened. "You know exactly what this feels like," she said, her voice cracking just slightly. "Dieu." A woman in a red gown huffed, Richard, you don't have to. Yes, he cut her off sharply. I do. The room froze. Richard looked at Emily, and for the first time, she didn't see arrogance. She saw regret. Deep, painful regret. I humiliated her, he admitted, loud enough for everyone to hear. I spoke without thinking. I acted superior. And in doing so, I repeated a mistake I made many years ago, the worst mistake of my life. Olivia looked down, her throat tightening. It resurfaced towards someone who deserved nothing but kindness. He looked directly at Noah. And I hurt your mum in front of you. That's something I can never take back. Noah stared at him, still holding on to Emily's dress, but listening. I don't expect forgiveness, Richard said quietly. But I needed to tell the truth. Not just for Emily, not just for my daughter, but because every person in this room needs to be reminded of something. Money doesn't make you better. Character does. Tana. A ripple of discomfort rolled through the ballroom. Emily's breath shook. She wasn't ready to forgive, but something in the room had shifted. Then a voice rose from the back, a familiar one, forcing everyone to turn, because someone had stepped forward with a truth that would hit even harder than Richard's confession. The familiar voice came from the back of the ballroom, Mark. He stepped forward cautiously, still wearing his simple work jacket, clearly out of place among the tuxedos and designer gowns. Emily's eyes widened in shock. She hadn't expected to see him here, especially not in front of Manhattan's wealthiest crowd. Mark cleared his throat, hands slightly trembling. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's something everyone should know. His eyes shifted to Emily with a mixture of worry and fierce loyalty. Emily didn't just lose her dignity because of that video. She lost her job today. A wave of gasps swept through the crowd. Emily felt her cheeks burn. Mark. He raised his hand, gently. No. They need to hear this. His voice steadied, stronger now. She was suspended because the bakery didn't want to deal with the drama. Because she got humiliated by a billionaire and then punished for it. A tight, painful silence filled the ballroom. Richard inhaled sharply, his jaw clenched. It was one thing to know he had embarrassed her. It was another to hear how deeply it had cost her. Emily watched him swallow hard, as though the truth physically hurt. Olivia crossed her arms, glaring at her father. This is exactly what happens when you throw your weight around without thinking. Richard seemed to shrink, not physically, but emotionally. For the first time in decades, he looked small, exposed, human. He stepped back from Emily, as if giving her space he should have offered long ago. His voice shook. I never meant for that to happen. I didn't know. Emily held Noah close, saying nothing. Richard ran a hand over his face, struggling with something heavy inside him. Decades of arrogance, walls built from fear of vulnerability, all cracking at once. I built an entire empire, he whispered. And for what? To become the kind of man who hurts people just by breathing near them? His voice cracked a sound no one in that room had ever heard. Olivia looked at him, startled by the rawness of his grief. Richard stepped toward a nearby table, grabbing the edge as if steadying himself. My wife tried to tell me, he said, eyes distant. She told me my pride would cost me everything. I didn't listen. And now, I see her face in every mistake I make. Emily felt something inside her shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a quiet understanding that pain shapes people in ways they don't admit. Then Richard looked at her again. Emily, I am so deeply sorry. But before she could respond, one of Richard's board members rushed to him in a panic. Richard, there's a problem. A serious one. The press just leaked something major. Richard's eyes darkened. And what he was about to hear could destroy not only his reputation but everything he had built. The board member leaned in and whispered urgently into Richard's ear. Whatever he said made Richard's entire expression change. His face drained of color, shoulders tensing as if struck by a physical blow. Emily watched him carefully. What's happening? The board member hesitated, glancing nervously at the crowd. A major news outlet just published a story. They connected your past treatment of your late wife with the video of Emily. Investors are furious. Hale Robotics stock is already dropping. Murmurs exploded through the ballroom. Olivia stepped forward. Dad, is this true? Richard nodded slowly, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. It's true. Every word. He looked around at the faces, some gleeful at the drama, some horrified, some quietly judgmental. My whole life, I've been running from the man I used to be, pretending I'd changed because I had money, power, influence. But the truth is, I never changed at all. Emily held Noah close as the room watched Richard unravel in real time. He took a shaky breath and whispered, I became the very thing I hated. For a long moment, he didn't move. He just stood there, breathing hard, staring down at the marble floor, as though his entire reflection had cracked beneath him. Then he turned toward Emily slowly, with the weight of a lifetime in his steps. Emily, he said, voice unsteady. I know I apologized earlier tonight, but that wasn't enough. It wasn't even close. He swallowed, shame flickering in his eyes. You deserved kindness, respect, and instead, I treated you like you were less than human, you and your son. Noah shifted in Emily's arms, watching him carefully. Richard continued, his voice breaking. If I could take back that moment in the bakery, I would. If I could take back what I did to my wife decades ago, I would. But I can't. All I can do is face what I've done and face the consequences. He ran a hand through his hair, clearly struggling. My company might fall apart. My reputation is already in pieces. And maybe that's exactly what needs to happen. Emily felt something soften. Not forgiveness, but recognition. This wasn't the cold billionaire who had humiliated her. This was a man finally confronting the damage he'd carried for years. Richard stepped back slightly. But before everything collapses, I needed you to know one thing. The room leaned in. I'm going to make this right, he said quietly. Not for the cameras, not for my company, for you, and for that little boy who deserves better from the world. But before Emily could respond, a hotel staff member rushed in with urgent news, because something was happening outside the ballroom, something that would drag all of them back into the storm before the night was over. The hotel staff member hurried into the ballroom, whispering something to the event coordinator before pointing toward Emily. She tensed instantly, clutching Noah as if preparing for more bad news. But the coordinator approached with a gentle expression. Miss Carter, there's something you should see. It's outside. Do. Emily exchanged a worried glance with Olivia, then followed the coordinator through a side hallway. Noah stayed close to her leg, still shaken from the earlier humiliation. Richard hesitated before trailing behind them, unsure if he even had the right to be part of this moment. When they stepped out into the quiet courtyard behind the Ritz-Carlton, Emily froze. There, on a small table under the soft glow of outdoor string lights, sat a birthday cake bright blue, decorated with tiny stars, and topped with a candle shaped like the number 7. Next to it lay a simple white card, with Noah's name, written in careful handwriting. Noah's eyes widened. Mom, is that for me? Emily covered her mouth, overwhelmed. I don't know. A bakery delivery driver stood nearby, awkward but sincere. Ma'am, a man called earlier today and asked us to bring this here tonight. He said it needed to be perfect. Emily turned slowly. Richard was standing a few steps behind her, hands in his pockets, eyes lowered. It's from me, he admitted softly. I figured you didn't get the chance to celebrate the way you wanted. Emily blinked, her throat tightening. You ordered this? He nodded once. I know a cake won't fix what happened to you, but I wanted Noah to have something good tonight, something untouched by all this mess. Noah stepped toward the table, staring at the cake as though it were made of gold. Is it really mine? Richard crouched down to his level. Yes, buddy. It's yours. Happy birthday. Noah hesitated, looking to his mother for reassurance. Emily gave a tiny nod. He smiled, small but real. Olivia lit the candle, the flame flickering softly in the winter air. Make a wish, Noah. He closed his eyes, holding his little hands together. Emily watched him, tears gathering despite herself. When he blew out the candle, the flame vanished, but the moment felt like a spark of hope finally igniting after weeks of darkness. Richard stood slowly, uncertain, vulnerable. Emily, I didn't know if this was okay. Before she could answer, Noah tugged her sleeve and whispered, "Mom, can he have a piece too?" Emily looked at Richard, really looked at him, and what she decided in that moment would change the direction of all their lives. Emily hesitated, still holding the knife poised above the birthday cake. Noah looked up at her with hopeful eyes, waiting for her answer. The courtyard was quiet, except for the faint sound of traffic from the Manhattan streets beyond the hotel wall. Richard stood frozen, unsure if he should stay or step back into the shadows. Finally, Emily exhaled. "Yes," she said softly. "He can have a piece." Noah beamed. Olivia smiled with relief. And Richard looked like the ground had shifted under him, as though he'd been given something he never thought he deserved. They all sat at the small outdoor table, the air cool but gentle. Noah took the first bite and laughed at the frosting on his nose. Emily felt her chest loosen for the first time all night. Maybe this moment didn't erase the pain, but it gave something back to her son, and that meant everything. After a few minutes, Richard cleared his throat. "Emily, I want to help. Not to buy forgiveness, not to fix my reputation, but because it's the right thing." She tensed. "What do you mean?" Richard took a breath. "I'd like to pay for Noah's schooling, all of it. Private school, tutors, whatever he needs to have a real chance. And for you, I want to offer you a position at Hale Robotics." Emily's eyes widened. "A position? Doing what?" "Customer relations," Richard said. "It's stable, full benefits, flexible hours, and you'd be good at it. You know how to talk to people. You understand real life more than anyone in my corporate offices." Emily shook her head. "I don't want charity." "It's not charity," Richard said firmly. "It's an opportunity you've earned 100 times over. But there's one condition." She folded her arms, wary. "Which is, you don't have to owe me anything," he said. "You don't have to forgive me. You don't have to like me. Just let me try to do something decent." Emily looked down at her hands. For years she'd fought alone. Rent, bills, double shifts, endless exhaustion. No one had ever offered her a lifeline without wanting something in return. But here was a man with more power than she could imagine, finally using it to lift someone instead of crush them. Noah tugged her sleeve. "Mom, can we think about it?" Emily met his hopeful eyes. "Yes," she said quietly. "We can think about it." Richard nodded, relief flickering across his face. But before the moment could settle, Olivia's phone buzzed sharply. She glanced at the screen, and her expression changed instantly. "Emily, you need to see this. It's about you." And the news she held in her hand would force Emily to make a decision she could no longer run from. Olivia held out her phone, the glow reflecting against her worried face. Emily hesitated before taking it. She'd been blindsided too many times already, but when she looked at the screen, her breath caught. The headline read, "Waitress from viral video speaks out community rallies behind single mother." Underneath were hundreds of comments, supportive, compassionate, angry on her behalf. Strangers across the country were defending her. Moms, teachers, nurses, delivery drivers, people who knew what it felt like to struggle and still try to stand tall. Emily blinked hard. "They're supporting me?" Olivia nodded. "In a big way. People are demanding you get reinstated. Some want the bakery to apologize publicly. Others are calling you a symbol of dignity." Emily's knees nearly buckled. For so long she'd felt invisible, disposable. And now people saw her. They cared. Richard stepped closer. "Emily, you deserve this. All of it." She exhaled slowly, a weight lifting from her chest finally, something that didn't hurt. "I'm not taking the job because I pity you," she said quietly. "I'm considering it because I'm tired of fighting alone." "Do you?" Richard nodded, his voice steady. "Then let me be someone who makes your fight easier, not harder." Olivia smiled at her father with something like pride, maybe even forgiveness. The courtyard lights shimmered above them as the moment settled into something soft and real. Noah finished his slice of cake and leaned against his mother with a sleepy smile. "Mom, this was the best birthday." Emily wrapped an arm around him, her heart swelling. "Yes, baby, it was." Tudar. Then she looked at Richard, truly looked at him, and said the words he didn't expect. "I'm not ready to forgive everything, but I am ready to move forward." Richard exhaled, almost crumbling with relief. "That's more than I deserve." Emily extended her hand. "We'll take the job and the schooling help, but only if it's a partnership, not pity." He nodded firmly. "A partnership." Noah reached out his small hand and placed it on theirs. "Like a team." Emily smiled. "Exactly like a team. Come here." Behind them, the distant sounds of the ballroom faded into insignificance. The three of them stood beneath the winter lights, no longer divided by wealth or shame, but bound by accountability, courage, and the quiet possibility of something better. Emily glanced up at the sky, feeling hope settle where fear used to live. For the first time in years, her life wasn't collapsing. It was beginning, and in that single moment, her dignity, was finally restored. So, our story has come to an end, my wonderful friends. And if you're still here with me right now, listening all the way to this moment, then something in this journey must have touched your heart in a real, honest way. Maybe it reminded you of your own struggles, or of someone you love trying their best quietly every day. And that's the message I hope you carry with you. Our dignity doesn't come from money, status, or the opinions of others. It comes from how we rise after being knocked down. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realizing this is strength, Emily's story shows us that healing begins the moment we choose to stand again, even if our knees are still shaking. Life will always have people who judge, who misunderstand, who speak without kindness. But there will also be those who step forward, like Olivia and Mark, people who remind us that compassion still exists, even in the loudest storms. If this story moved you, even just a little, then do me one small favor. Like the video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel so we can keep walking through these emotional journeys together. You're not alone. Thank you for being here.